All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is Kyle at 888 VoIP. Just want to make sure real quick, can everyone hear me all right? If you can, just chat a quick yes so we know.
I think you're on mute.
Mute still?
I think you are, yeah.
Oh, sounds good. All right. Good deal. Thanks, everyone. All right. So, again, thank you so much today for joining us in the webinar that we're going to have discussing the ribbon solution and some of the steps to follow to avoid some of the pitfalls we fall into when transitioning to Microsoft Teams products and platforms. My name is Kyle. I'll be one of the co-presenters today along with Dwight from Ribbon. What we'll do here just to get started is make sure everyone's good to go. We'll get started probably here in just a second with the presentation. I'll just run through an introduction of who we are, pass the ball over to Dwight, and then he'll just run through a lot of the details around the Ribbon solution. At the end, we'll have a question and answer session, and we'll have some highlights related to the special programs that 888 VoIP is running around Ribbon and Yealink Teams products. So it looks like we're pretty settled in here. Dwight, if you want to go ahead and jump to the next slide, we'll chat briefly about 888 VoIP. So if there's any partners or attendees out here who are new or haven't worked with 888 VoIP in the past, we are a channel-focused voice over IP hardware and software solution distributor. Channel-focused meaning that we're only really focused at the reseller and service provider and integrator level, not selling any products or solutions to the end user marketplace, and focused on creating valuable relationships with our channel partners. We have two main warehouse locations. Our headquarters is in Buffalo, New York, and then our West Coast presence we established about a year and a half ago out in Reno, Nevada. It really allows us to deliver anywhere in the contiguous US within 3 days or less. And with our channel focus, not only do we provide logistics services in terms of fulfillment and warehousing, but we have a lot of value adds that we bring to the market and offer to our customers. And that is wrapped a lot around some of the business processes that we can shift away from you as the integrated reseller and service provider and run in-house while we provide logistics services. And that would include provisioning of products. We have a variety of provisioning services that we offer to our customers. We have an advanced API set up to allow for seamless end user facing sales, but also internal sales processes if there's platforms and different providers that you work with today that allow for such an activity to be set up. We have those types of services as well. We also have technical training internally from our sales and support staff that we offer to any customers, as well as marketing support. There's a wide range of services that we offer to our channel partners on the marketing end, as well as some inventory management services wrapped around white label or private warehousing services and pick, pack, and ship. So quite a variety of services outside of just providing logistics and fulfillment. It's, again, part of the channel focus that we have on our partners, and it's a way that we want to help you all go to market more competitively and streamline some of the back-end processes for you. So that being said, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Dwight. We really appreciate him jumping on the call with us, being that he's from the Ribbon side of the house. He's going to discuss with us today some of the solutions that Ribbon has brought to the market to support the migration to Teams, either from OpenSIP platforms or from legacy Skype for Business and Link platforms. So Dwight, thank you very much for your time, and with that, we'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, appreciate it. So what we're going to talk about today is Microsoft Teams and getting there successfully, so that you can help your customers to do that. A couple of years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago, Microsoft had their Ignite conference at the end of September, and what they said, basically, for all intents and purposes, was that they were replacing Skype for Business with Microsoft Teams. So Microsoft Teams is different than Skype for Business. Microsoft Teams is a collaboration platform, not just a communications platform. What I mean by that is that where Skype allowed you to do things like instant messaging and phone calls and video and web conferences, Teams goes above and beyond that, and what they have is they have persistent chat, so that you can kind of come back to the conversation. They also allow you to share files, and then they've got other plugins that go in with it. For instance, Microsoft Planner. So if I wanted to work with a team to get something accomplished, so for instance, this webinar, if I had a small team where we needed to collaborate on the presentation, we could share that in Microsoft Teams, and then we could have a conversation around that, and then we could have meetings around that. So again, it's more than that. It is basically their answer to Slack, because Slack was something that people were starting to look at, and whenever something like that happens with Microsoft, they always react swiftly and violently, and that's what they've done with Teams. Is they've taken Teams and they've basically tried to crush Slack. And one of the things that they came out with at Enterprise Connect this year was the adoption of Teams, and you can see here that it's significant. The adoption of Teams. They've got this is as of March, that they had more than 500,000 organizations that were using Teams, and 91 of the Fortune 100 were using it. So the adoption was there, and the reason why the adoption is there is because Teams comes as a part of the Microsoft enterprise license, right? So if you're deciding that you're going to use Microsoft Office, more than likely you have access to Teams. Are you using Teams yet? I don't know. I think that more and more people are using Teams. Obviously, this chart shows that it's going up quite a bit. But more than just that, people are using it for calling, because that ability is in there as well. And so we'll talk about that today. We had a ribbon ourselves, went out and did a survey. And with our survey, what we wanted to find out was how people were using Teams. And we sort of sectioned it off by how large the organization was. So what we're asking here is whether you've already deployed Teams, if you're in the process of deploying it, if you're planning to deploy it, or either you don't know that it exists or aren't planning to deploy it. So for a very small organization, these are startups basically, and startups aren't going to necessarily know, or they're not going to be concentrating on the software that's going to help them to succeed. They're really kind of concentrating on their business. So it's not a surprise that 65% early this year weren't even aware that Teams was there. But as you go forward into larger organizations, the awareness increases, and the amount of deployments also increase. So you get to the point where with large organizations that people are not only aware of it, but they've got plans to deploy it. And then those plans will eventually include the calling capabilities as well. I know this because we get a report on a monthly basis from Microsoft that tells us about how many people are using Teams to make phone calls outside of the organization using something they call direct routing, which is the ability to connect a SIP trunk, a company's own SIP trunk, to the Microsoft phone system, and therefore Teams. And that just since January until August had increased by 7 to 10-fold the amount of not just people that were connecting to Microsoft Teams calling, but also the number of minutes that they were using. And in fact, they've gone from just a small handful of companies that might have 1,000 or more people deployed on Microsoft Teams for calling to 7 times that number just throughout the first 7 months of the year. So it is picking up steam. We're hearing it everywhere. I'm sure that you've heard it as well. So based on that, how do we make sure that this is successful? Especially at the beginning, you've really only got one chance to make a good first impression. And this is a classic case, pardon the pun, of not making a good first impression, and that is New Coke. A lot of you have probably heard of this. If you haven't, back in the 80s, Pepsi was making inroads to Coke's market share, and the way that they were doing that was they were having a taste test, and that taste test, it was a blind taste test, so people didn't know what cola they were consuming, and almost always they were choosing Pepsi over Coke. What that said was that it tasted better, right? And it was starting to make inroads to the market share for Coke, and so Coke reacted by coming up with a new formula, one that could beat Pepsi in taste tests, and they tested the heck out of it. They tested it with more than 200,000 people, and they were very sure of themselves that the new Coke was going to be tasting better. So they brought that out onto the market, and people absolutely hated it. They hated it. In fact, they hated it so much that Coke withdrew it from the market within 3 months. It was an utter failure. Of course, they came back and they called what was Coke Classic Coke, and it was even more popular than it had been previously. So it all worked out for them. But the idea here is that it was a superior product, right? The new Coke, according to those taste tests, was a superior product, and it completely failed. And the reason why it completely failed is because people don't just look towards functionality or taste, in this case, alone to decide whether or not they like something better, right? There's a familiarity that they have with what they're using, and you want to make sure that when you change to something new and improved, that people are on board. All right, you need to understand the differences that Teams calling is going to bring. That it has a different user interface from whatever it is that you're using, and make sure that people in the company understand that, and that and that you're going to be able to train them prior to, so that they can use that new interface. It's also cloud-based. If someone had been using an on-premises PBX, then the cloud-based PBX is different, not just in where it sits, on the cloud, and the fact that you've got to go over the internet to access it, but there's also, because it's as a service, there's continuous enhancements that happen to that. Anybody that's used software as a service, one of the things that you kind of have to be ready for is that when you come in on Monday or even on Friday, that the user interface might have changed a little bit, or certainly there's new features or functions, or things might work slightly differently, and that wasn't up to you to decide. That was them making it available to everyone. And so the company, Microsoft in this case, is very happy to be able to develop this in an agile way, such that as they get feedback, they can add little features and functions to please the majority of people, but the majority isn't 100%, and so you need to be aware of that as well, and be prepared. If you had something that wasn't IP, then it is IP now. And in fact, the I obviously in IP is internet, and this being in the cloud, you are now accessing this over someone else's network. Being able to get to the Microsoft cloud. Now, as a service provider, you can, you have a lot of control over that network, but the people that you're selling to, they don't have any control over that, and that is cause for some fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and just be aware of that. So when moving to Teams, Microsoft says to start with pilot groups. I wouldn't go in there if someone is looking to move to Teams and try to move everyone over the weekend. I mean, unless it's a very small organization, you want to start with pilot groups and choose very carefully, so that you can build positive momentum within those. People that are used to new technology, that appreciate new technology, and that understand that everything doesn't work exactly the way that you thought right out of the gate. So start with people like the help desk or engineers, and that's helpful before getting to sales and executives. And make sure you provide training. I mentioned that before. But going back to the new Coke, make sure that you present the positive differences, right? The Coca-Cola marketing team didn't do a great job of preparing people for a new taste. And so what these companies need to do is they need to create a positive experience right from the outset. So there's some differences, and some of them are very positive. So for instance, in Microsoft Teams, I can book focus time in my Outlook calendar that sets me that automatically sets me to do not disturb. So it's almost, I don't know if anybody does this. I've got a guy that I work with that likes to book time on his calendar so that it looks like he's busy, and it comes up on his to-do list, and it says that, you know, hey, now's the time when you are going to work on this. Well, Teams will take that and automatically change the presence awareness to do not disturb, which is pretty cool. Another one is that you can call from anywhere in Teams. So if you're in the Teams client, you just hit / and then call, and then it comes up with a directory. And certainly that's something that's kind of nice, right? Something that you didn't necessarily have before. And you can send audio messages as well. So you can record yourself with an audio message and then send that off to somebody so that they can listen to it. So there's little features that you can concentrate on to help make the thing something, or the migration something that people are actually looking forward to. So just kind of keep that in mind. So let's get to the 3 pitfalls that I was talking about. One is that cloud PBXs are fundamentally different from their on-premises brethren, right? And there's a number of ways that they're different. But one is that the path to the call controller is in Office 365. It's in the phone system that's in their Office 365 environment. And so you have to go over the internet to get to that. Whereas before, you didn't have to they didn't have to worry about that. That was right on their LAN, and it was something that they could get to very quickly, very easily, and they didn't have to worry about that connection going down. Another I mentioned before was continuous updates. Whether you like it or not, there's going to be enhancements that happen to the Microsoft phone system, and some of those are the things that I talked about before, like being able to hit /call anywhere in Teams, and then have a directory come up, and I can make a phone call right from there. So that's a good thing. But other things are that, you know, there might be UI differences. So you want to stay on top of that. Understand that it's just fundamentally different. It's not something that you control. And then if I'm using the Microsoft calling plans rather than bringing my own SIP trunk, I need to configure my emergency addresses, because now I'm a client, and it's different than when you're provisioning phones into a physical building. So if I'm using that, then what I need to do is I need to say where that person sits. And just think about the way that things differ, right? If I've got a phone on my desk today, I know where my desk is, so I know where that phone is, and so emergency services, they don't just know that I'm in a building. They also know what floor and what what side of the building that I'm on. Whereas with this, if I've got a Yealink Teams phone, then I can log in as myself. And even if I go to a different branch office, I can still log into myself. So I'm me, but now I'm in a different place. And so that's just something that you need to think about too, as far as emergency services are concerned. Another one is that certification is, what we'll say, certification is more than a shiny sticker. So you've all seen it, right? Certified, or all the stickers that you see on all the different products that you buy, whether it's new and improved, or if it's certified, or if it works with, this or that or the other thing. I will say that there is a certification for direct routing, which is a capability of the phone system. That direct routing allows you or a customer to bring their own SIP trunk and connect that to the phone system. And what that means is that I'm getting my DIDs from my service provider, but I'm using Teams to make the phone call. And people that come in to me. I can answer those calls on my Teams client, and I can make calls that go outside of my organization with my Teams client. In order to do this, you have to have a session border controller that is certified with Microsoft Teams. And by certified, what we're doing is we're testing out the functionality with the Microsoft phone system. And when we're talking about those continual enhancements that happen on an ongoing basis every month, they add new things, that those things are tested with the certified partners. And Ribbon is one of those certified partners. And in fact, we have more certified SBCs with our Microsoft certified SBCs than any other organization in the world. And they range from things for branch offices all the way up into core networks that our service providers use to provide direct routing as a service in a multi-tenant environment. But we work very closely with Microsoft, not just before these enhancements get into the phone system, but also afterwards. That we work with the Microsoft support teams very closely, and we can hand trouble tickets back and forth between our two organizations. So, and that helps to expedite the problem resolution. Just be aware that Microsoft is going to try to help somebody if they don't have a certified SBC, but they reserve the right to not support someone that isn't in a supported environment. And they're doing this on purpose. They're trying to make sure that they don't have to test too many things so that they can get more features and functionality out to their customers more quickly. And then the third is a quote from Benjamin Franklin, or at least it's been attributed to Benjamin Franklin. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And one of the things that is very important, but often overlooked, is business continuity. And by business continuity, I mean, what happens if your connection to the phone system goes down, right? Does that mean people can't call you? Right now, it could mean that, because let's say I've got a Yealink phone, a Yealink Teams phone. Well, that Yealink Teams phone goes to the Microsoft Office 365 system to do its call control and to be able to route the calls to where it needs to go. Well, what happens if that connection goes down, right? You need to be able to plan for that. And because if you don't, then you're not going to be able to call people, and people aren't going to be able to call you from outside of your organization. If you're not dealing with people outside of your organization, you're not making any money, right? And so that's the big thing, is that any outage costs you money. And you don't want any outages. So what we've done is we've hooked up with Yealink and their Teams phones, and what we've done is we've tested a solution to this problem. So again, if I take a look at this, the way that the phones are going to work is that they're going to go up to the Microsoft phone system for call control, and that comes back down. And what we do is we put a session border controller there. That session border controller has the telephony trunks, SIP trunks, or otherwise out to the public telephone network, and that's how you're able to make the phone calls. But what happens when that is interrupted? Well, when that's interrupted, you can no longer go to the phone system, right? As you can see in this picture. However, the Yealink phones have been tested with Ribbon to use Ribbon as a secondary registrar, and by using it as a secondary registrar, now the information to route those calls is in the Ribbon SBC, and the Yealink Teams phone simply needs to use that information in order to make those phone calls, so that you can continue to make and receive calls from outside of your organization. And the way that they do it is really quite simple. The Yealink Teams phones, what they allow you to do is to just press on a button. They call it a quick ball to go back and forth between the interfaces. So if I'm in Teams and my connection to the Office 365 goes down, I can tap on that SIP quick ball, and then it moves me over into a separate UI where I can get to a dial pad and make phone calls the old-fashioned way. What we've done and what you're able to get from 888 VoIP is a sort of a package deal for any Yealink phones that you buy from 888 VoIP. Will provide a free license to use the Ribbon SBC as a registrar. So I'll hand that back over, and you can go over that deal and how people can get that discount.
Great, thanks, Dwight. So as you alluded to, it's a pretty lucrative opportunity when we're bundling together these two solutions for these types of deployments. On the Ribbon side, when deploying an SBC 1K, 2K, or SWE Lite product, we will, if we have the appropriate size Yealink attachment, we'll get you a free registrar license for any of those SBC products, so that the phones can all register them as their main point to connect back up to the Teams platform, and that will be part of an discount that you also receive for the phones themselves. So when it comes to the phones, it's going to be dependent upon the volume of the phones tied to the deal. But as you can see here, it's going to be anywhere from 2 to 6% of the purchase price in terms of a discount. So not only will you get the phones, but you'll see the free registrar license when you bundle up all of the necessary licensing on the SBC 1K, 2K, or SWE product. We're going to be running this program through the end of the year. There's a couple of things that we need to do with you on the 888 VoIP side to register the deal and make sure everything's appropriately lined up to take advantage of the program. But bring the opportunities that you may think will qualify, and we'll vet them out and run through the process, make sure that if there's any information you need from either manufacturer, we make sure to get that for you and your customers. And if we have the opportunity closed within 2019, you'll be able to take advantage of those discounts. All right. I think that moves us along is there a couple more slides you want to run through, Dwight, or I think that's going to move us along to the end? Not sure. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. So if there's any additional information, Dwight, that you'd like to add, by all means. If there's questions that have come up from you guys out in the gallery and you want to discuss them, feel free to use the chat window on the GoToMeeting that we're using for the meeting today. Again, thank you so much for your time. If that's going to be the end of the time you have to share with us today, for joining us and discussing these solutions from Ribbon.